Hi guys, it is Aoife from Words of Clover. I'm here to start my 2024 The Irish Readathon reading vlog, which I'm obviously delighted about. It is the 1st of March now, so I can get started with all of the reading plans I have for the Irish Readathon. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Irish Readathon is a month-long readathon that happens every March, and the whole goal of the month is to try and read as many Irish books as possible and to just encourage people to pick up Irish authors or books about Ireland and just spread the Irish love around. So that is what we are doing, me alongside my co-hosts Leanne over at Leanne Rose and Lisa at Lisa in Bookland, who I will leave all the information linked below. So so I am officially getting started with my Irish Readathon reading, which I am so happy about. I do have two books that I still have left over from February. I just didn't quite finish them in time. I've just been quite busy, so haven't had, or like, I've been busy, but I also haven't been delegating as much time to reading, like in comparison to like some other things. I've kind of been like gaming a little bit more than reading and getting distracted by my phone and stuff like that as well. So need to work on that a little bit. But I have two books left over. So I'm currently reading The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore. I'm listening to that on audiobook. Kate Moore wrote one of my favorite books, non-fiction books of all time, which is The Radium Girl. So this is her it's, I don't think it's, I think it was 2022 that was released, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really good on audiobook, so I'm going to continue that for the weekend. And then I'm also I'm also reading Maud Horton's Glorious Revenge, which is like a historical fiction that I was picked up for the February Buzzwordathon prompt, which was like positive words. So I'm using glorious as a positive word for that one. So I am about just under 50% through that as well. So I'll finish the two of them this weekend, but those aren't Irish, so they're not being included really like in my Irish reading. If I do finish them, I might just stick them into my February wrap up, even though technically I'll finish them in March. But I am continuing. This morning I got a tiny bit in. I got like 7 pages before work into my first book of the Irish Readathon, which is The Grass Ceiling by Emer Ryan. This is a non-fiction book, and we are following Emer Ryan, who is a writer and a journalist, and she's talking about her love of sport growing up, how much she loved camogie, which is hurling in Ireland, which is an Irish sport. And when I'm first reading this, or the first bit that I'm reading it, she's kind of talking about her introduction to sport, how much she loved it, how much she's in a sporting family, in particular with Irish sports such as Gaelic football and hurling, and how from a very early age, not just her, but I think Irish children, because I definitely kind of went through this as well, even though was never a sporty kid, in terms of when you're a girl, you realise that you don't play hurling, you play camogie, even though they are pretty much they are the exact same sport. Are some I think different rules, the same with Gaelic football between men and women, but yeah, it's kind of really interesting that even though it's the same sport, they have different names and stuff, and camogie would be as popular, I guess, in many ways. Then I mean, it's getting much better than it was, but yeah, women's football and camogie wouldn't sell for a long time, didn't sell as many tickets to matches and stuff as the men's versions did. So yeah, that was something that I was always aware of when I was growing up. And at the time, the football club that my dad would have been involved in, that he's still involved in, my brother would have played for when I was growing up. I spent a lot of time there, and I was never that interested in camogie, but I always was interested more in women's football. And at the time, that GAA club didn't have a women's football team. For some reason, they weren't interested in doing it, so it wasn't even available. So even though I did express interest in playing women's football, or with like playing football, playing GAA, I actually didn't have like a team that I would have even have gone into as a child if I wanted to. And then obviously I grew up a little bit more, and I just wasn't as interested anymore, because I never had, when I had the initial interest, it wasn't fostered, not by my parents, and my dad would have like played football. It was just the GAA club that my family are involved in. There wasn't the team there. So that in itself kind of makes this whole book quite interesting for me. and I like the fact that it is focusing on Ireland and Irish sport in particular. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and particularly like as I said, I had like a initial interest in GAA when I was younger. I like watching it now and again, but I'm not really a sporty person. The only sport I was ever really into was horse riding, and I did that for a long time. Uh, and now I just don't do it because I think you get to a point where it's better if you have a horse. It makes more like sense for you to have a horse, or to have land where you can have a horse, which I don't. I live in the city, well, like kind of the suburbs of the city. I don't have land. I the stables that I do like, it's just that little bit far away from me. The lessons are very expensive as well, and just in my life now at the moment, I just have so many more responsibilities and things to do that driving out there for a lesson just doesn't make that much sense for me, both economically and time wise for me anymore, which I am really sad about. But I did have some really, really good years of horse riding. I just don't think that it's something I can have on a continuous basis in the future. All that tangent aside, that was such a huge tangent about like sport and stuff. I'm very interested in reading this. Even it's a short book. It's only going to be like 200 pages. I think I'll fly through it really quickly, and for my first book of the month. And yeah, I am really excited to kick off the Irish Readathon with this book. So I have a half day from work today, and we are actually having some like wedding stuff happening today, which is kind of fun. So we have to go to some offices to basically get we're basically doing our like intent to marry appointment today, which is where we go to the offices. We have to give like information around our identity and kind of proof of who we are and who we say we are, and we have to obviously say that like we've never been married before, and we get basically the documents that are the documents that we actually sign on our wedding day, which is very exciting. So we'll be getting them today later on. We'll probably go for a nice kind of like late lunch, early dinner to celebrate that. Maybe have a glass of Prosecco, I don't know. But yeah, it's just kind of exciting kind of wedding updates and stuff like that. So yeah, it's getting closer. It's like 7 months away now, which is crazy. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing today, and I'll probably take you along with me for a little bit, and I will continue and then I'll update you guys when I get a little bit more into this. It is now Monday, March 4th, so I said I'd come on and do an update as I haven't talked to you in a couple of days. I've just been reading, walking the dog, cleaning the house, doing bits and bobs, playing The Sims. So very exciting. So I wanted to get on because I am about 20 pages off from finishing The Grass Ceiling by Emer Ryan, which I said was going to be my first book of the month, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 4 to 5 stars, which is why I'm updating it now. I just really enjoyed Emer's like discussions around her relationship. This is about being a woman in sport, but this is pretty much focusing on camogie and hurling, which is an Irish sport, as I was saying before. I really recommend, if you haven't heard about it before, I recommend looking up videos on like YouTube or TikTok or anything and seeing what it entails, because it looks like a very rough sport, but it's a very exciting sport to watch. It's really, really fast. And so Emer's just talking about her, her family relationship with sport, growing up, and my dinner is ready. Growing up with it kind of like in her blood, in her DNA, like it's always something that she wanted to do. She had a very big passion about it. But I really love kind of the honest and vulnerable conversation she had in this around what made her step back from the sport at times, and then what brought her back in, the insecurity she felt about herself and about her performance, and her kind of struggle with socializing with others that kind of sometimes ended up making her hurling career quite hard. Someone who also has like made decisions around like the own hobby, sporting hobby that I love, and has made decisions, ones that I regret, and then ones that I had to come through to with like a kind of mature mindset as well about what I could and couldn't do. And I just really appreciated what Emer is talking about in this. But yeah, so this is most likely going to be 4 to 5 stars, and I'll update you guys when I finish it and I've moved on to the next book, which is going to be A Maid on Fifth Avenue. So I'll probably be starting that tomorrow on my way into work. And yeah, that's the plans for now. Hi guys, it is now Thursday the 7th of March, and I have to say I'm kind of feeling tired this week, so I'm glad that it is almost Friday and almost have the weekend to relax and to read a little bit more. I wanted to update on A Maid on Fifth Avenue because I'm almost 70% through it, so I am I have kind of feelings about it. I have kind of like idea of a rating. It kind of depends. This is like a 3 to 3.5 stars for me. I think I'm not absolutely in love with it. Like, I'm enjoying it, I'm finding the story interesting, but it's not like the best book I've ever read or something that I'm really, really riveted by. What I will say is that it is actually part of it, the historical fiction part of the story that's set in the 1920s. So there is a modern day POV that is, or timeline, set in 2022, and there are references to COVID and the pandemic and COVID burnout. So just a warning to people, because I know some people don't really like to read that or be reminded of that. But there is like an emphasis on the ill effects that kind of the COVID mindset had on people in terms of burnout, and how people couldn't be with family, like, you know, when they were sick or even dying at times. And I appreciate that being there in that sense. So it was kind of interesting. And then we're following a character who has been diagnosed with COVID burnout, which I also thought was really interesting, because I haven't seen that. Like, you know, you follow characters before that have had like burnout from jobs, or, you know, just overworked and stressed, but to have the particular label of COVID burnout, I thought was very interesting. But in the 1920s, we're following a character who has obviously emigrated to New York. She's working as a maid, and she ends up meeting an Italian girl who very quickly I was like, I feel like I'm getting like sapphic vibes, like gay vibes from this, but I wasn't really sure. And then after another while, I was like, no, like it is definitely like a sapphic story here. There's no doubt about it. So that has kind of been continuing, and we're seeing that progress. I do think it kind of happened a little bit quickly, particularly for the time period it's in. I was like, the fact that, like, yeah, she was kind of worried. She'd never like heard about being a lesbian before, hadn't really suspected that she was a lesbian, and then she very quickly was just like, well, I don't care, because I like obviously am mad about Elena, and, you know, I want to be with her, she's my beloved, she's my love. And I felt like that happened very quickly. But it's still like very sweet. But again, I think the story is a little bit choppy in certain ways. I feel like we don't get as much time with the characters in terms of drawing out things as much as I would like. So things kind of are happening in like choppy succession, where I would like things maybe slightly slower, really get into the characters. I feel like I'm crooked. And yeah, so I think I would like that a little bit more, maybe. I will say as well, there's like a weird tension between characters sometimes in this, particularly in the 2022, the modern time period. There's like a really weird tension between the characters that I find really odd, and I don't really understand why there's this tension. And even like the characters themselves, like the character we're following, Emer, she doesn't even understand why there's this tension. And now and again, like, people just like, she takes offense to what people are saying, or other people take offense to like something she said or done, or like for like no reason. And I'm like, I just find this really odd. Like, why is there this weird underlying tension this whole time with this book? Like, it's just whatever way it's written, or whatever way the character interactions are written, and I don't find it that enjoyable at times. Like, especially like with certain characters being around, I'm like, I just feel like there's always going to be this weird tension, and it's just, yeah, it's not that enjoyable. Also, I have found there's a little bit of repetition in sometimes in terms of there's like an American character in the modern timeline, and we're always told that she's American woman, the American, and I'm like, we know she's American. You don't need to keep repeating that she's American. And then it's the same with the historical timeline with the love interest who's Italian. We're constantly kind of being reminded that she's Italian. And I'm like, again, we know that she's Italian. We don't need to be reminded constantly that she's Italian. So that's kind of one of those like just like buggy things that's kind of annoying me. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. There's kind of like a tense mystery element to it, that I'm intrigued to find how it all ends up. I kind of have my suspicions, but I'm intrigued to see how it all ends up and how the two timelines properly mesh together. And I feel like the two love interests in the modern timeline, we're going to see how in some way their stories or their family backgrounds like match up in some way, which I think will be, which I always kind of love seeing in these kind of books, with people kind of figuring out lost connections or hidden connections. It's always kind of a fun thing to see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But I started very quickly reading Nora by Nuala O'Connor, which is about the love story between James Joyce and his wife Nora. And I haven't read James Joyce. I don't know a huge amount about him other than kind of the bare facts. You know, he was like a literary genius and this, that, and the other. And so yeah, but I'm interested. I kind of, when it comes to like men in history like this, I'm always a little bit more interested about the women in their lives, and I find that that's what I'm interested in. So that's why I was like drawn towards this book. And I will say, the first chapter in this book is like, or the first section that like I'm listening to is like 4 minutes long, 3 or 4 minutes long, and it literally starts off with Nora giving James Joyce a blowjob. And I was like, that is not really what I was expecting to read at 8 o'clock in the morning. Cool, James Joyce getting a blowy. Cool. And that's literally all I read before I got off the train and I switched over to music and my physical book. But yeah, so I'm kind of interested to see where it goes from here. But yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. But I thought that was kind of a funny thing to start off my morning with. So yeah, that is my update, and I will update you guys when I have a little bit more to talk about. It is Sunday now, and I thought I'd come in with a check-in. So I have finished A Maid on Fifth Avenue, and this was a 3 out of 5 stars for me. It just, like, there was just parts of the story that I just didn't really enjoy that much. It had a trope at the end for me that is something that I really hate in books, and it was one of those ones where I felt like a character who, like Annie, the character who we're following, who was like a lovely character, but she puts like, it's kind of one of these things where you see her put her dreams and her life on hold for other people, and that just really annoys me. And there was so much of her life, there was so much of a character's life wasted that could have been spent being somewhere she loved or being with people that she loved. And yeah, it just like really depressed me. And yeah, I just hate that when that happens in a book where you feel like characters have lost so much time because of other people's actions or other people's selfishness, and it's just really frustrating. And I feel like it happens to women a lot in books as well, where we see women put their dreams or put their life on hold for others, and it's so frustrating to read. So yeah, I definitely thought that with this book. So I kind of gave a bit of a ranty written review, so I'll probably leave that below. If you're interested with spoilers intact, if you're interested in reading what I actually thought, what I really thought about it. So yeah, but I'm actually 50% through Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, as I kind of pumped that up my TBR once it got longlisted for the Women's Prize, which was really exciting. So this is one I've been wanting to read since last year. It was on my like anticipated releases for last year, and I decided to finally read it this year, which often happens. But this, we're following it's set in England, and we're following a journalist who is covering a story of a young girl who went missing, but then I think it was like 24 hours later her body was found and she appears to have been strangled to death. And a lot of the people in the neighbourhood start saying, oh well, the last time this little girl was seen, she was with Lucy, who belongs to that Irish family that are like no good. And people are kind of talking about this Irish family and how, like, you know, they're all kind of like no good, like layabouts, or, you know, they live off the state and stuff like that. So the journalist ends up kind of focusing his attention on this Irish family, and he's starting to kind of figure out kind of like what is making them tick, what they're like, what kind of stories he can write about them. And we're learning about this Irish family and about their background and why they came to England, their relationships with each other, their relationship with the child, and yeah, we're kind of learning all about that. So I'm 50% through that. It's not a particularly long book. I think it's like maybe under 300 pages, 250 pages maybe. So I'm enjoying that, and I'll get a good bit more into that later. But it's kind of, there's a grittiness to it that I really enjoy, and yeah, there's kind of there's this dark element that but you don't really know where it's going to go. I don't really know how the story's going to end up. So I'm looking forward to reading it, and we're kind of getting. I'm after at the point where we've gotten a lot of the kind of the young woman who, her name is Carmel, so I think she must be in her like 20s in the book, and we've kind of got her story from when she was a teenager and growing up, and I really like her. Even though she's not necessarily like the most likable character, I really like her, the way she talks about things and kind of the honesty in her story around her feelings around motherhood and like having someone dependent on you and things like that, and losing kind of losing some of your independence because of having children and stuff like that, and even her feelings around her pregnancy, which was unwanted, and the desperation she felt and the extremes she went to try and get rid of it. I just really liked all of that in it, because I just felt like it was such a like it's such a eye-opening experience, but it's something that so many people have gone through and felt, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I really enjoy the writing in this book so far. So yeah, I have high hopes for it. So yeah, 50% through, and we'll continue on with that later. So yeah, at the moment I'm going to edit my February wrap up, which I've just filmed, which is like almost 50 minutes long, so that's exciting. I have to bring the dogs for a WALK. They're beside me, so I'm not going to say the word because they'll get excited. But I think I'm going to have a cup of tea first, because I've been talking for a while and I feel a little bit parched. So that is what I'm going to do. Hi guys, it is now, what day is it? Tuesday morning. It's early. I've been up early. It is almost 7:30, and I got up at 6 to bring the dogs for a walk before work. So yeah, I'm already tired, and the work day hasn't even started. So I am just getting ready for work now. So I said I would take this time to talk to you and give you an update about where my reading is going, because I finished my book last night. So I finished Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, which was a quick read. Took me a few sittings to read. I think it's about 250 pages maybe. And this is about a family in London who end up getting scrutinised when a young girl in their neighbourhood is found dead and goes missing and is found dead then. And the gaze is on this family, and particularly a child in this family, that she's done something to this child. And people are saying like, oh, they're no good, they're scumbags, like no wonder something has happened, like we should have always suspected that they would do something like this. And we are following, at the start, we are following a journalist who kind of seems to work for one of these maybe like not necessarily particularly reputable maybe newspapers. He's kind of willing to do what he can to get the story, like do whatever he needs to get the story that will help break his career. And we see him, and he knows immediately that this could be a really good story. He wants to get in there, and he kind of ingratiates himself in with the family and puts them up in a hotel when like scrutiny kind of gets a bit too deep for them, and like he's like plying them with drink, being like a shoulder of comfort for them, and talking to them and kind of getting their story, like learning about what made them come to England in the first place, when they had mostly like the children of the family had grown up in Ireland, and what had made the entire family move over. And we learn about that. We learn about kind of, there was nothing like necessarily like, I really like the title of this book, because everything in this book is like, there was nothing that really badly happened in many ways, like until like this like, kind of like this child murder. There was nothing bad that like happened to this family. It was just that like there were so many small ways in which they failed each other, they failed themselves, their parents failed them, you know, society failed them in many ways. And I just really liked how it all came together. I thought it was a really clever gritty, dark type of novel. I don't think it's a full 5 stars. I think it's like a very strong, like I think it's a strong 4 out of 5 stars. But I did really enjoy it. I really like Megan Nolan's like writing style in it. So yeah, I really liked it, and I will definitely be reading more from her. And I'm really interested to see what other. I think like more and more people will obviously be reading this because it is on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list for this year. And I don't know if it'll be shortlisted. It'll be interesting to see if it does. I mean, I would love it for Megan Nolan if it was shortlisted, but I don't know how it will stand up in comparison to like other books like on that list. So I haven't even like really looked at anything else other than I know Soldier Sailor is on it by Claire Kilroy, which is also an Irish book, which is actually one like before it even was longlisted. I have requested that from the library, so I'm waiting for that, like the physical copy of that to come in. Though I checked it, I think yesterday, the day before, and I think there's like 18 holds on it now because obviously as soon as anything goes on to like the long list, it goes up, like loads of people put reserves on it, so it might be a while before I get that. I doubt I will get that before the end of March. So do I have my next book here? So I think the next book I'm going to try and read is Listen to Land Speak, so I'll probably start this on the train in this morning and see how far I get with it. And yeah, I'm really glad to finally be picking this up. As you guys know, I've had this since like last year. Actually no, I think I've had it since November 2022 maybe, or December 2022, because my brother got it for me either my birthday or Christmas, and I meant to read it last year and I didn't, so looking forward to finally actually picking that up. And then on my walk I have been today and yesterday I have been listening to Nora by Nuala O'Connor, which I did talk about, which had that kind of like alarming start, and the sexual activity between them did kind of like die down a little bit, but there's still like some just kind of like alarming kind of like explicit scenes that like they're not really like sexy, they're just like explicit, and you're just a little bit like, oh, like I don't know if I want to, like, I don't know, there's something about them that just kind of like really throws me off for some reason. In terms of the actual story, I am enjoying it. I actually, like, at first I wasn't sure about the narration, but now I am fully kind of invested in Nora's story and her experience of her life with James Joyce. I think it's an interesting, like, she obviously loves him so much, and like he is the love of her life, she supports him in everything that she does. But I like the fact, I was kind of afraid of how this book was going to go when you could see how much she was like in love with him, and how much she kind of was turning a blind eye in many ways to a lot of his flaws. But then I'm glad now in the book, like we are seeing like how in many ways he was a real failure maybe is a strong word, but like he was obviously a very gifted writer. I've never actually read anything of James Joyce, so I'm just presuming, like, taking what other people say about him and the fact that he's very famous. This book does actually is the only thing that has actually made me want to read James Joyce. He's obviously an extremely gifted writer, but because of that, kind of everything else took a backseat in his life. Like writing was like obviously number one to him in many ways, and because of that his wife and his children kind of took a backseat in many ways in their care. Like the money he needed to get to raise either through work or through other things to support them often like didn't like wasn't happening because he either like wasn't doing very well in his work, he was like quitting work because he didn't like it because he wanted to write, or he was just spending all his money on drink, which, you know, age old story, particularly of an Irishman. So yeah, we see that, and we see Nora struggling with all of that. It's at an interesting point in the story now because World War One has just ended. So we're seeing how they are finding Italy after World War One. So yeah, that's the story. Nothing else really going on. It's only Tuesday and I already feel exhausted, which is great. There is some nice St. Patrick's Day stuff in work, which is nice, and decorations, and they have a crisp sandwich station, which they had it yesterday. Hopefully they still have it for the rest of the week, because I refrained yesterday from having one, and now I'm like, I should have taken the opportunity and just made myself a crisp sandwich during work. So maybe if it's there today, I will treat myself and I will make myself a crisp sandwich. So yeah, maybe I will do that. So yeah, so I'm almost ready to go. What time is it? It's 7:30. I normally leave at just before by 20 to. for the train, and I just need to do my hair. So yeah, okay, I will update you guys soon. I'll be finishing up this vlog pretty soon because what day is today? The 12th. I think I'll finish this up on the 15th and try and have it edited and ready to go by the 17th for St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, I will see you guys then. Hi guys, I am here to finish up this vlog before I put it up. I've just been editing it and I needed to round it out. It is St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day. And I am having a chill one at home. It's actually my first Patrick's Day in a couple of years, not being in Donegal. I normally actually go up to Donegal this week, but I have no big concrete plans yet. Hopefully I might go up in another month or so, but just with the new job and everything, I didn't take this week off to go up. So yeah, it's kind of weird being at home for this week. So Keen is away as well, so I have the house to myself. I had a couple of friends over yesterday and we went out for a few drinks, so it's feeling a little bit delicate this morning, but not too bad. And yeah, I've just had a kind of a nice day. Yesterday was like a clean the house kind of day, got like all those bits done. Today was more of a potter around day and kind of chill out day, so that is what I've been doing. I wanted to come and update you guys. I'm gonna be honest, is there updates? There's not that many updates. So I finished Nora. I actually really enjoyed it. This was actually one of those books where I didn't really know what I was going to think of it when I went into it, but I did actually end up really enjoying learning about the life of James Joyce, learning about his family, his wife, his children, and their like upbringing. I do feel like the first maybe 10 years of Nora and James's life together was kind of like the main focus or the main part of the story, and then once it kind of got to that point, I felt like things kind of did go very quickly, especially near the end. I felt like we were kind of going through the motions very quickly of the different events in their life, and then particularly the focus on the mental health of Nora and James's daughter Lucia, who was diagnosed as schizophrenic and ended up basically spending the majority of her life in a mental hospital or an asylum, which was quite sad to read, and just the struggles they had with her. But I did really enjoy it. I thought Nora's voice was really strong. I really liked the narrator. The narrator for this was Jen McGurk, and I think she just did a really, really good narration for both Nora and for James. The Irish accents, like I just thought she did a really, really good job. So I really enjoyed listening to her voice narrating me the story. So yeah, this was a 4 out of 5 stars. There's actually a couple of there was a book I saw that's actually about Lucia's life, like a fictionalized book about her life. I think I might give it a while after reading this, but that's one I would like to read, like through Lucia's point of view. That might be an interesting one to read. And who knows, maybe eventually next year I could pick up Dubliners. I don't think I'd do Ulysses, maybe Dubliners or Finnegan's Wake. We'll see. As I said, it's the only kind of book that's actually made me think that like, oh, maybe I will pick up a James Joyce and see what I think. So yeah, we will see. I'm not promising anything, but we'll see next year. And yeah, and then in terms of my physical book, I actually still haven't finished it. I have like this much left, which is, I have about 50 pages, 70 pages left of this, which is Listen to the Land Speak by Monica McGann. I don't have the Just Check It Out, but it does have a nice spine. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I'm just taking it chapter by chapter, and work has I've just been so busy this week. I honestly, number one, why I haven't checked in before this, but I just feel like brain wise I just haven't dedicated time to reading because my brain was just like so focused on other things. I could only read very little. I wasn't kind of being able to give myself a good bit of time reading this, so I'm hoping to finish this tonight. As I said, I am enjoying it, and taking it chapter by chapter. We're kind of talking about different parts of the land, different elements of Irish land and the history around different things in terms of like lakes or mounds or historical sites, and the history of that, not just in terms of Christianity and like that kind of recent history, but it goes way back to like ancient Irish history and pagan beliefs and gods and goddesses, and then how some of these were kind of like absorbed into Christianity then and given a more like Christian viewpoint of things in terms of stories and fables and things like that. and messages that the church wanted to send to people around like morals, morality and things like that, but how so many of these stories did come back to, and the gods and goddesses were obviously all like ancient Irish pagan beliefs, and how so much of that is connected directly to the land. And yeah, I find it really interesting. There were some reviews of this I did see people were kind of criticizing the fact he does talk about colonization a lot, and obviously Christianity like taking on these like Irish stories. But the thing is, I don't think you can write a book like this and not talk about it, especially if you're from a colonized nation where your history and your mythology was taken in that kind of way. You kind of have to mention it and everything. Like, it is such a big thing as to why these stories, why some of them have been forgotten or misremembered, or there's different versions of the stories because of it. So I don't find that an issue. I do think he does meander a little bit with this book, which is something other people have said in reviews I've seen. And I do agree with them slightly. I don't mind it too much because I think that's just the way his mind works. And I think if you take this at more of like a chapter by chapter, rather than like a linear start to finish, like, it is a non-fiction anyway, but I think if you just take it by chapter by the topic and almost look at them as like essays about that topic in particular, I think you probably would get on with it better, which is kind of what I'm doing. So I am enjoying it. I think I'll probably give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Not a 5-star. That could be, again, because maybe if I reread it in the future, it could be 5 stars, but I am really enjoying it. I'm liking the tidbits of knowledge. I really love learning about Irish history, mythology, just how like ancient some things are when it comes to Ireland and Irish history. I think is so fascinating. So yeah, there's lots of this that I am enjoying. And then I'm also listening to Normal People by Sally Rooney on audiobook, which is a reread for me. I'm almost finished it and I'm really, really enjoying it. I wasn't sure like on a reread. This is my first time rereading it. And I was wondering like, oh, will I like it again the second time around? And I am definitely absolutely loving it. It's just such a fantastic story. Communication, love, mental health, what it's like being a young person. There's just so many different things in it. Connell and Marianne's like the special nature of their relationship and how they connect to each other, how they miscommunicate with each other so badly, but at the same time together they communicate the best together than they do with other people in many ways. And there's so much frustrating parts in it, but there's also so many tender, gorgeous moments between the two of them. And then I was loving that so much that I actually have been watching the TV show again as well, which I absolutely love. I think Paul Mescal as Connell is just absolutely amazing in that show, particularly around his portrayal of mental health and the way he acted. I just thought it was amazing. I think he's just a brilliant actor. So I've been enjoying watching that because I did finish One Day the other day on Friday and I had an emotional meltdown, to be quite honest. So I was kind of looking for something that kind of was similar to that in terms of the short episodes. I think Normal People is really similar to One Day. If you haven't watched Normal People, I would actually, and you watched One Day and you liked it, I would definitely recommend it because even though they're different stories obviously, but I think the way they focus on a relationship between two people over a number of years and the short episodes but that have so much in them, packed into them, even though they're just half an hour long, I think they're very similar, so I'd recommend. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that reread via audiobook, so I'll probably be finishing that by tomorrow, I say. And then once I finish Listen to the Land Speak, which will be probably by tonight, I'm going to start Long Island by Colin Tobin, which I will also start tonight. And this, which is Girls Who Slay Monsters, Daring Tales of Ireland's Forgotten Goddesses, which I guess kind of actually goes quite nicely with Listen to the Land Speak, because we're talking a lot about goddesses and that, so this will be a nice one to pair up with that. And this is absolutely beautiful, so I actually might sit down later and read a couple of stories. The artwork in this is unbelievable. It's so nice. So yeah, I'm going to choose this as to read a children's book. So yeah, and I'm really looking forward to that. But you will see all of that in the next vlog, because this is me ending out this vlog. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys have been thinking, what have you been reading so far, and yeah, it's hard to believe we're already like halfway through the month. Thank you guys again, and yeah, just leave a comment down below, we'll chat away, and I will see you guys again next time.